Small cars have small engines. Big cars have big ones. It's the law.
It's the law!
But what happens when you break that law? What happens when you put a V8 into something like the size of a Smart 4.2? Well, all hell breaks loose. Hey guys, Stipe here with a list of the top 7 tiny cars with huge engines. Roll the intro.
Number 7.
Lotus Exige is what I call a pocket racer. A car so small and lightweight that it doesn't need tons of power to outrun cars that are much more endowed, let's say.
Bruh.
At first, Exige was just an Elise that was given a Viagra. It's stiffer suspension, stiffer chassis, thanks to it having a fixed roof, and a bit more power. That, if you ask me, isn't exactly enough to call it a new model, but hey, that's what you get when Lotus's budget to develop new cars is about $350.
What's $350?
$3.50.
Things changed with the Series 3. Still based on the Elise, but now with nearly twice the engine in the back, a 3.5-liter V6 originally found in big boy Toyota and Lexus models, plus a supercharger because why the hell not? The body is bigger to fit in this new engine, but not what I would call large by any means. This is still a small car, only much more ferocious, like a honey badger. And yet, that's not the most big balls Exige that there is. There's a guy from Texas called John who managed to squeeze a 7-liter V8 with 2 turbos into the back of it. He called it the Hennessy Venom GT. I'm sure you've heard of it since it used to be the fastest road car at one time. But because John didn't have the money to properly crash test it and legalize it under a new name, each Venom GT is officially registered as a Lotus Elise or Exige, depending on the roof. I bet you didn't know that.
Number 6.
This is a Honda Civic Type R, a compact car with 300 horsepower, 4-cylinder engine. It is fast. But how much faster, you might be asking, would it be if it was even more compact? Well, this much. That, my viewers, is an Ariel Atom, or in other words, it's what you get when you strip the Type R down to its bones. Okay, I'm lying. Only the engine is from the Honda, the older one at that. Everything else, and there isn't much else, is made by Ariel. The Atom doesn't look like much, nor does it weigh much, but with 300 horsepower up its ass, this tiny scaffolding on wheels had a higher power-to-weight ratio than the Bugatti Veyron. And that's the slow version. The fast one, it has a V8 squeezed in there. How? Well, this wasn't some big big block. Million cubic inches like you'd find in a classic Cadillac, but as you can tell from the wings that have sprouted, even this small V8 had a dramatic effect on the car. So how small are we talking about here? 3 liters, that's it, which doesn't sound like much, but when you take into account how big the rest of the car is, 3 liters is more than large. Fun fact, this V8 is made by fusing 2 Hayabusa engines into a V, and in case you don't know what a Hayabusa is, it's like a McLaren F1 of the bike world. It's the Mac Daddy, and this Atom has 2 of them.
Look what they are needing to mimic a fraction of our power.
Number 5.
When it comes to driving experience, Mazda Miata is an absolute 10 out of 10 car. Chef's kiss. Mwah. However, when it comes to being seen in one, then it's like you're wearing a pink tutu. People will be asking why you stole it from your girlfriend.
Why are you gay?
Mercedes SLK doesn't have that problem. It's also about 5% larger, so it can fit grown-ups too. Plus, there was an AMG version, which came with a supercharged 3.2-liter V6. You'll never ever see something that large in a Miata, but even that pales in comparison with what AMG managed to squeeze into the successor, a 5.5-liter V8. Isn't she pretty? It's the same M113 engine minus the supercharger otherwise found in models that are many times the SLK size, and despite its aluminum construction, it still weighed a ton. Granted, the base SLK was never some sharp handler, but with that V8 to lug around, it was about as nimble as a ballerina after eating an entire Christmas turkey. Never mind the sporty AMG suspension with the front biased weight distribution, you'll be all nice and slow through the corners. But when it finally straightens up, screaming like an opera singer that's being electrocuted. You know how trains are mostly just the engine with a little cabin attached for a guy, and I do mean a guy, to operate it? That's what the SLK 55 is like. I'm sure nobody will ask if you borrow this from your girl. Well, unless she's called Big Mike.
Oh, yeah.
Number 4.
It's hard to believe, but during the 1960s and the 70s, we didn't just make land yachts on wheels, but some small cars too. Really small ones. Take a look at this AMC AMX, for example. It's tiny.
That's what she said.
Viewed from the side, it looks like someone cut about 10 inches from the middle and just welded the front and rear ends together. It's stubby and stumpy, and it feels kind of like if you brake suddenly, the car will tip over onto its nose. I mean, look at its wheelbase. It's just 97 inches, which is shorter than the Geo Metro, the 1980s Corolla, or hell, even its subcompact brother, the AMC Pacer, where the AMX was bigger and by a lot was under the hood. You could choose between 4 different V8s, a small 4.9 liters, small, a 5.6, a 5.9, and the big boy 6.4 liter chonker. But isn't that bigger than the whole car? Who would have known? Still, it's total overkill, like loading a mousetrap with dynamite. The fastest SS version officially produced somewhere around 340 horsepower, but the real figure, according to the NHRA, was more like 420. That in a car the size of Shaq's shoe. The result was kind of insane, to be honest. Before going on sale, as part of the marketing effort, 2 modified AMXers were put through their paces, where they broke 106 speed and endurance records. 106! Not bad for the mini-me of muscle car world.
Number 3.
On paper, the Alfa Romeo 147 GTA was already ridiculous. A front-wheel drive Italian hatchback with the legendary 3.2-liter Busso V6 under the hood. It was definitely a case of a monster engine in a small package. But then a crazy bunch of tuners from Auto Delta looked at it and said, cute, but what if it had even more engine? I guess I should explain. Auto Delta is to Alfa Romeo what Alpina was to BMW. Not the official in-house tuner, but a specialist for those with higher demands. So anyway, they bored out that Busso to 3.7 liters. Give it some new internals, a supercharger, and up to 415 horses. This, at a time when even the 250 in a regular one was already considered too much? Jesus! Sure, they also fitted it with a front diff to keep the tires from having a seizure every time you step on it, but honestly, it was like trying to put out an active volcano with a garden hose. Forget about refinement and precision. Driving the Auto Delta was pure chaos. Steering wheel writhing in your hands, the front tires begging for mercy, and the engine shouting its lungs out. You know how you feel most alive when you're inches from death? Well, this thing will make you grow the umbilical cord again, and then a really hairy chest and a third nut in your ball sack. In short, the Auto Delta 147 is sensational.
Number 2.
At this point, I thought I could mention some of the really insane examples that were never intended for mass production, but are really cool anyway. So here we go. Nissan Juke R. It's basically a shortened GTR with the Juke body fitted on top. Only one prototype was made, but after a surprising demand, they went on to produce and sell 5 of the 2.0 versions. These had the underpinning of the GTR Nismo, so they were even faster. Mercedes B55 AMG, a small people carrier with 0 sporty potential, was given the same 5.5 liter with the SLK. Now, you should know, for whatever reason, it didn't spark much interest.
I don't give a shit.
Lotus Elise GT1. It's the homologation road version of the Elise Le Mans Racer. It has a V8 from the Esprit, which is nice, but not as nice as the Corvette V8 or the Viper V10 that were used for the racing variants. Aston Martin Signet V8. Someone actually paid good money to Aston's bespoke Q division to make them a version of the Signet, which is basically a rebodied Toyota IQ with a 4.7-liter V8 from the Vantage. BMW Z3 V12 is a small Miata rivaling roadster, but as the name suggests, with a V12.
Nice.
It was so ridiculous that BMW kept it a secret for nearly 15 years. VW was equally ambitious but very vocal about putting an even bigger W12 in the Golf Mark V. The only place it could fit was in the back, so that's where it was. This was just a show car and in no way intended for production. I'm sure there are more, but you get the idea. Besides, it's time for some honorable mentions. It's my favorite game, can you guess them? And at number 1.
Number 1.
You might not know it, but the Shelby Cobra isn't an all-American car. It actually started its life as a very British sports car called an AC Ace. It was small, nimble, but in true 1960s UK fashion, kinda soggy down the straight line. This all changed once Carroll Shelby, of all people, walked through AC's doors and said, "Nice little car you've got there. Mind if I ruin it with an absurdly large engine?" Surprisingly, the Brits said yes. And so, after some chassis tweaking and shoehorning, the car was packed with a 289 Ford V8, and with that, the Cobra was born, a British hooligan coked up on American power. But that was only the beginning. Just 3 years later, there was a wide-body version with the bodybuilder stance and the Ford's 427 V8. This 7-liter monster turned the old dainty roadster into something faster than any car available in the United States and scarier than your mother-in-law finding out what you really earned. The Cobra didn't so much drive as it tried to kill you. It was brutal, loud, ridiculously overpowered, and yet still not in its final form. Carroll's personal Cobra was the Super Snake, aka the Cobra to end all Cobras. It had an all-aluminum body and 2 superchargers pushing that 427 to 800 horses, but no seatbelts. Only 2 were made, with one ending up in a fatal crash. So to whoever currently owns the second one, I'd suggest you start working out your will as soon as possible. Ow! Anyway, that's all I have for you today on today's topic. Thanks for watching. Huge thank you to the channel members and the Patreons. Love you guys who bankrolled this video, help keep me employed, keep me moving. I'll see you in the next one.